I want to give you guys just an overview of how this panel is going to go down, all right? So a lot of people hear STEM panel and they think, oh, it's going to be some boring thing where we all say education is great and STEM is important and this stuff is cool, right? And I want to discourage that, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to have fun up here, one, and secondly, we're going to engage in discourse. We are going to disagree with each other because STEM is not this monolithic thing where everybody just has the same opinion and, oh, I'm piggybacking on what she said and she piggybacking on what you said. We're going to have educational discourse up here, and we've actually been having a lot of that backstage. So I think we're just going to bring that stuff in front of you guys and hopefully entertain you all in the process, okay? Now, if you guys disagree, that's okay, but make sure you're not like throwing tomatoes on stage or nothing like that. There will be time for you all to answer questions at the end of our period up there with the microphones. Sound good, everybody? Okay, excellent. So starting from right to left, why don't we have our panelists introduce themselves?
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Bridget Rogers. I graduated from A&T in 1996, and I'm currently a software development engineer at Lenovo.
Okay. Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brianna Jackson. I am from the suburbs of Chicago. I am currently a senior studying civil engineering here at A&T, and I will graduate in May 2020, where I've accepted a full-time position with ExxonMobil in their environmental and property solutions team.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Steve Cook. I am graduated in 1982 at Double E. I work for the National Security Agency, and I'm a researcher.
Good afternoon. My name is Kim Bullock Gatling. I graduated from North Carolina A&T in 1996 with a degree in electrical engineering. And then I went to law school at the George Washington University, and I've been practicing as an intellectual property attorney for 20 years.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Justin Patrick. I'm a freshman student. I study mathematics. I will graduate in 2023, and I'm hoping to have a career in math.
Awesome. And I just wanted to make a mention of the fact that we have a lot of generations represented up here. We've got baby boomers, we've got Gen X, we've got millennials, and we've got Gen Z. And so we're going to be all providing our own unique perspectives. I'm myself am kind of a millennial Gen Z hybrid. We're all going to be providing our unique perspectives on that in the context of STEM. So first things first, I really want to understand why. Why did you guys pick STEM? What was the thing that inspired you? Was there a childhood moment that you had that maybe got you interested in STEM? Let's start with Justin.
It's kind of hard to say. Since a child, I was always pretty gifted in math. All the teachers, students looked up to me, thought I was very talented, and I always knew when I grew up I was pretty much going to have a career in STEM, and I was going to do something great in the world, make an impact. And
so you always had the juice?
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, there was not a single point where you didn't have the juice? Like, you just, as a baby, you had the juice?
Yeah, like, probably when I was in my mom's womb, I knew I was going to be a STEM.
Well, excuse me. Let's see if everyone can say the same story. Kimberly?
My father was an aerospace engineer at NASA, and so I was a daddy's girl. I wanted to follow in his footsteps. He was also an A&T grad, so I cannot think of a time when I was not engineering bound.
Wow, okay. Steve?
So for me, I wanted to be an architect, but I always took math and science. So it was my junior year in high school, where a professor from Rochester Institute of Technology came, and he asked what an engineer was. And me thinking, the only time I've seen an engineer was doing on a train, you know. So I was able to go to RIT for that summer, learn about all the different engineering, and had a guidance counselor who afforded me the opportunity to do that. And so from then on, I wanted to be an engineer from that time on.
For me, I actually hadn't met any engineers until I was like in high school. And I participated in a program called AXO where I did a research project with Argonne National Laboratory, and that was my first time meeting an engineer, a Black woman engineer, all in one, and so she became like my inspiration. And so from there I was like, oh, I know this is what I want to do. It was more so then figuring out which discipline and which industry I wanted to work in, which I'm still figuring that out. But it's been a great journey, and I'm proud of it.
For me, I will say I've always been interested in science. I attended a summer camp called Summer Ventures, which is a program for minority students. And it was the experience at that summer camp that really made it click for me to say, this is what I want to do.
Awesome. So, I mean, I'm seeing a common theme here with everyone kind of being able, well, with the exception of Justin has a juice, everyone seems to be able to point to either a person or a specific experience that they had that, you know, maybe at a young age that they were like, oh, okay, this is a possibility, I want to pursue this, right? So, you know, is there like, I know some of you all referenced this, but for those of you that didn't, is there an individual person that you can point to? And Justin, do you have a role model or do you just peerless?
Nah, I don't have a role model.
Okay.
I would say for me, two of my science teachers, I believe it was a 8th grade science teacher. He was super unpredictable in regards to what would happen in the classroom that day. Every day we walked in, there was something different. He just made learning fun. And then when I got into high school, there was another teacher, and everyone said, you have to have him for honors biology. Okay, let's do it. And in that class is where he introduced us to the summer program that I talked about. And it was just a lot of hands-on opportunities that we had that really helped me with those two teachers.
Anybody else have a person that they want to point to or shout out that was like, that was their inspiration? I know you said your father.
My dad.
It was like I said, my guidance counselor and my math teacher, who was like Mr. Gomez. Mr. Gomez was an interesting character in a sense that we would come into class and always joke around, but when it came down to teaching the class and understanding things, he made us understand and do those type of things. But
Gotcha. All right, so I'm gonna get a little controversial here. One must go: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Which one and why? Yeah, you
Get rid of
think?
That's hard.
None. They all work together.
They all work together. Is there, everyone's just gonna agree? Everyone's gonna agree. We can't get rid of any of them.
I mean, all of us, even in the different disciplines, we all have incorporated classes from the other and use information from the other. So, I mean, that's the great thing about STEM is that it is interdisciplinary.
Anyone else have a perspective on that? Everyone kind of agrees, huh? That's cool. So, okay, what about STEM versus STEAM? Would you guys say that art should be included in the same realm, in the same acronym, or should it not be included? How do you guys feel about that?
so I think it does need to be included on an equal status, because what I'm finding out is that in the social science and the arts, humanities, that there's a lot of things that we're finding out that only can be experienced, and we don't have the answers in the science portion. So to me, they are there.
Especially when you think about artificial intelligence.
Definitely.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's huge.
And so, like, some people, though, would think of maybe science or engineering as like intrinsically creative fields, and they don't require that extra add-on. But you guys think that it still needs its own place?
Most definitely. I think, too, what we're finding here at A&T is that now, you know, innovation is so important. And in order to have an innovative mindset, you kind of have to have that right brain inactive a little bit more. And so that's something that especially our faculty members are working with when it comes to research, because it's very important, because we can't just keep recreating the same thing. So in order to have new thoughts and new ideas, you have to have innovation, which leads directly into that creativity mindset.
Right, gotcha. So all of us are soon to be HBCU graduates, right? And a lot of times we get flack, or we hear flack from folks saying, oh, you went to an HBCU, your STEM education must be lower quality, or maybe some people have that perception. What are your thoughts on PWIs versus HBCUs? What differences are there?
So I've got a story behind that. When I first went to my agency to work, I always wanted to give back and come back to A&T. But I found that they always went to the predominantly white institutions. So there were several senior people, mainly white. And so I asked the question, being only there for a year, I said, so if you had a young lady who graduated from A&T, a young gentleman who was going to graduate from MIT, I just took that as he was a white versus an African American? Which one would you choose? The senior researcher chief basically chose he would choose the white male. Then I said, okay, play along with me now. The black female has just as much qualification. She goes to MIT to be an engineer with a PhD. The white male comes to A&T, gets a PhD in engineering. Which one would you choose? It got quiet. Didn't have an answer. So what that got to see was, where his perspectives was. I think that also allowed me, or for him, to understand where his mistakes were, or his lack of awareness of what an HBCU can provide, and where he was really thinking. So I gained his respect after that also.
You gave him some new perspective.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and that's a fight that a lot of times you have to play, right? Is that we are responsible for changing people's perspectives if we attended HBCUs, whereas we don't walk in the door and people know, like a lot of times, the school that we went to, right? So, I mean, any other thoughts on that about what HBCUs are giving you that PWIs are not?
I would say for me, what an HBC, what A&T gave me is that sense of ability to accomplish anything. Coming here, I felt like all of my professors, all of the staff and faculty that I was around were really there to support me and kept pushing me. They continued to challenge me, and they allowed me to learn in a space that was forgiving. They allowed me to make mistakes. They pointed out those mistakes, of course, and then made sure that I actually learned from those mistakes. And I just felt that that was something that I would not be able to have an opportunity to get from one of the other institutions.
Right. It's a level of confidence that you have coming out of an HBCU. When I got to law school at George Washington University, I was going to school with students that had come from Ivy Leagues, and I did not feel inferior in the least. I felt I earned my seat here just as well as you did, and I think being here at A&T just gave me the confidence to feel that way.
Powerful. So, Justin, you recently decided to come to an HBCU, right? What made you make that decision?
Well, my mom, she went to Bennett, and she never really got a chance to go to A&T, and I never really found out why, but I felt kind of bad, and there were other colleges I wanted to go to, but I decided to go to A&T just to fulfill her dreams, accomplish everything that she couldn't accomplish, and, get the A&T experience that she always wanted to have.
So did you all ever feel like, for some of you that are more established in your careers now, did you, you guys had the confidence, right? You guys had, that's one of the biggest things, right? And you feel that you're on equal footing, like you have that intrinsically, but do you ever feel like there was a technical piece that you were missing as a result of an HBCU?
Not at all.
No,
Absolutely not.
Right, and that's a big rumor, right? That's something that, a lot of friends of mine would say is like, oh, well, you got that degree, but you missed out the opportunity to get these technical, this technical expertise, right? But you guys all have that.
Yep.
So is there any reason why you would go to a PWI for grad school or anything like that?
If that's the only place my employer would pay for me to go. But no, I actually came back to A&T to go to grad school. So my choice, my money, I'd do it all over again.
That's what I'm talking about. Okay. So another question I have for you all is, well, I think our audience is maybe on the come up, right? Some of you guys are trying to get ahead in life and stuff like that. So maybe if we could have each of you share some life hacks. How did you navigated through your STEM career? What's a secret that you wish you would have known when you were a freshman in college?
Wow.
I guess I can start because I'm the closest to being a freshman. So I would say definitely for me, some of the things that I really take pride in is involvement, because you only get as much as you put into it. And so for myself, I've been in NSBE and SWE. I'm in Management Leaders for Tomorrow, different organizations that have allowed me to grow professionally in addition to what A&T can provide for me. And so what I've found is that, my value is right now, it's my network. And so I have a pretty great network from those organizations, and even from being a student at A&T, I take pride in having those involvements in those different organizations, and it's really made me, I think, a more well-rounded student here since I'm about to graduate.
Network is key. I mean, it's one of the things by being here that you build that. You build, a word I use is called brain trust. It is those people that you can always go back to. And I think, by you building it out from your freshman year all the way up to your senior, and once you graduate, there are many of my alums that I still keep in contact with if I always need something. So it's a brain trust that I think A&T can provide you. Also, in a sense, it's a family. I think of A&T as a family. I think we all do.
Absolutely. One thing, if I could do over again, would be that I wish I would have filled my electives with some more accounting and finance classes. So I did not decide to go to law school until the spring of my junior year. And so until that time, I had filled all my electives with all STEM and engineering related classes. But now that I've been practicing law, I'm obviously dealing with a lot of business, and I serve on a lot of boards. And I wish I would have had a little bit of that finance and accounting background, but I just didn't have the foresight at the time to know to take those classes.
Gotcha.
And I'll add to that. So I completely agree with that. One thing that I wish I would have done also is to fill my additional electives with global studies. So back when I was in school, companies were not as global as they are now, but just about any company that you go into, it's global. The first day that I stepped into my first job, it was a global company. So I'm having to interact with people all around the world. So I had to do some quick study on what the customs were, how to interact with people, how to build that trust with people from different countries, as well as people of the opposite sex in different countries, for them to be able to trust me and for us to be able to collaborate together on a team to accomplish a common goal.
Any hacks for us, Justin?
No, just do your work.
So Justin was sharing it with us backstage that he's actually mastered not procrastinating. He's figured this out. So if any of you guys afterwards want tips from him on how to not ever procrastinate ever, Justin's your guy. So
Yeah, just bring notepad and pencil.
really simple. Really simple. So, one of the things that I experienced coming from an HBCU and then transitioning into my first job was in tech. I was the only one, right? And that was something that was tough for me. I actually had a guy come up to me and try to pet my hair. He was like, he was my manager. He was like, yeah. We kind of had this jovial relationship where we kind of going back and forth. He's a white guy, and he comes up. He's like, oh, I could just. And I was like, whoa, dude. The South Side of Chicago almost came out of me for a second. I'm like, So, I saw that as a teaching moment, though, for him. And so I ended up, because I don't think he meant ill. He didn't have ill will when he did it. I was like, yo, you don't touch my hair like that, dog. And it was like one of those kind of conversations. And luckily, he was a cool enough guy to where I could check him in that space, even though he was technically my boss, right? But have you guys ever faced any discrimination? Especially, and can you talk about that transition as well, from being in an HBCU where you're in a community to being the only one?
So I think for me, it's a little bit inverse. So where I grew up, I was used to being the only one. And then coming to A&T, now I'm used to seeing, my skin color all around me. And so I have to transition back into what I used to live in. And so I think that for me, it is a little bit easier because that is what I was used to. However, I haven't really had anything happen to me like that per se quite yet. But it's life and it'll likely happen. But I can say that, the one thing that I am passionate about is just making certain that I have open lines of communication and that I'm open and honest with the person. So if something doesn't make me feel comfortable, that I express that to them. And I know the proper protocol to handle those things if it were to happen in a work setting.
I've never had a particular racial discrimination incident, but I do recall, particularly early on in my career, when I started practicing law, I was 24. And of course, I was doing intellectual property, so people were expecting me to come into a room and to be able to understand the technology. But then when they would see me, I looked very young, I was a woman, I'm Black, and I think their initial impression was that either I wouldn't be able to understand the technology or that I wouldn't be an effective lawyer. So I did feel that hurdle that I needed to overcome and to impress them and make sure they knew that they had the right attorney on the case.
Anyone else want to share any stories or overcoming any obstacles from discrimination or anything like that?
I think there's a reverse to that in the sense of being chosen because you are the only one, in a sense, and not really realizing that you were chosen because you're Black, not because of your skill set or what you have to bring to the table, but because of that. So that's something we have to be very cognitive of.
Right, and I think sometimes people will have that perspective, right? It's you're only here because you're filling the quota.
Right.
But I think a lot of times, if you do happen to meet a person of color that's in one of those spaces, they're the best of the best because they had to come through overcome all those other hurdles to get there.
Right.
Right. So Justin and Brianna, so you all are Gen Zers, right?
I think so.
Yeah,
I
technically.
think I'm in the middle. I was born in
Arbitrarily.
97.
So arbitrarily, the line is about 95. So technically, for all intents and purposes of the question, you're Gen Z,
Yes.
right? And so, you know, I'm really curious about you all's feelings about the perception of STEM, like among your classmates, among your colleagues. Is STEM today a sexier career than it maybe was 20 or 30 years ago, in you all's opinions?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like all my friends, family, everywhere I go, everyone wants to be some type of STEM major, whether it's a mathematician, a technician, some type of engineer. I mean, that's like the new wave. That's like the new standard. You must have a career in STEM if you want to be successful for the future.
I definitely recognize the same trend, even here slightly, because all my friends are in STEM. But I think we all work together and push each other and send each other different opportunities. And so it's definitely like we're all helping each other kind of get to where we want to get to. And so I think that's also very important and evident in the fact that our circles are so strong with so many like-minded people that want to pursue a career in the STEM field.
Right. So, and there's so many new things that you guys do, like Khan Academy, or I used to call it YouTube University, where we just kind of teach ourselves everything. So, I mean, and it kind of changes the way that you all educate yourselves compared to maybe previous generations of students. So, my question for you all is, what do you think the older generations have wrong about the way you guys learn STEM, or the way you guys learn in general?
I mean, you know, the first law of thermodynamics is the same first law of thermodynamics. I really don't know. I think that now it's more so how we're learning. So like you said, we do a lot more online Khan Academy. We have a lot more resources in different ways. So we can kind of find answers a little bit quicker. We can go on Google. We have online databases for the library, different things like that where we have a lot more accessible quicker. And I think that that's one thing that is a little different in talking to some older generations. It's like, oh, well, you can do it this way. And we're like, yeah, we can do it this way, and we can get it a little bit faster. But sometimes you still have to entertain those ideas because they do have a wealth of knowledge that, of course, I don't have yet. But I think, too, by being able to share through different generations, then you're able to unlock a whole lot more.
So when don't you entertain the ideas? Like, at what point is it like, they don't really know what they're talking about? Like, at what point do you make that decision?
I haven't gotten to that point yet.
Oh, wow.
So I try and be really nice.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. So for some of my Gen Xers and baby boomers here on the panel, what do you guys feel Gen Z might be not thinking about as, you know, because they're so predisposed to technology, right? Because they have a mindset that's almost based in technology, like fast computers, right? Like, what do you think that they might be missing?
So for me, I think it's two things. So knowing how to function without the technology. So as an example, if you are driving and your your phone is no longer working, will you know how to get to point A to point B on a road trip? I don't know. So just being able to do that, but also I would say teamwork and collaboration. So where I work, you always work in teams. There's not a lot of individual work per se. And I feel like, especially with my own children, that they're so engrossed in their individual devices that they do not do as good of a job collaborating and actually engaging with their peers to actually accomplish. To me, it appears just to be forced in school.
I agree, and in my field, it's the written word and the spoken word. I just think the art of writing has been lost, and that the new generation really needs to focus on developing good writing skills, as well as the spoken word. You know, I'm in oral advocacy, and knowing how to get up in front of a crowd and to be able to speak articulately, I really think we need to focus on that.
I'll agree, but you know, where I work, we don't use those technologies in the workplace because of certain situations. But I mean, you know, the social skills are key that are not being, that we're losing, more or less. We're really losing the social skills.
So Gen Zers, you all agree with that?
It's debatable. Basically, yes. Yeah.
So you think your friends kind of lack social skills, can't really speak in front of people, aren't that good at writing? Like compared to maybe...
Compared to those before, yes. We just don't have the skills required to really do it.
My friends do. So.
And what makes your friends, like, what makes them so special? Why do they have those skills?
I think that majority of my friends, we all, it's important for us to not only be engrossed in our academics, but also be a polished professional. So we're taking advantage of a lot of other tools that will help us with our speaking and help us with our writing and things to that nature. So a lot of times, yeah, we may not necessarily have to present in front of a class for this project. However, we're in different organizations that we're presenting about how to get a co-op, how to get an internship. And so those are all things that are grooming us to be professionals that will definitely pay off in the long run.
So on the journey to STEM professionalism, what tools do your friends use to get those skills?
I would say that a lot of it has to do with our network and sharing. And I think that that's one of the things that I'm really happy about my friend group is we're very open and very willing to say, this didn't work for me, this works for me, this is a great opportunity here, apply for this. And so I think that that's one of the things that is the root for a lot of our successes is the fact that we're open and willing to say, if you need help writing this essay to get this job, we will help you do it. And so I think that having a great friend group and a great network of people that want to see you succeed, and it's not like, oh, I want to tear you down, I think that's something that's really important. That's kind of like the soft skill side of things that not as many people are fortunate to have, but here at A&T I've been afforded that opportunity.
Okay, so what is UL's favorite thing about baby boomers and Gen Xers, like around your parents' age generation?
Their work ethic.
I would say their stories have a lot of wisdom and knowledge. And like one of my coworkers from over the summer, he was probably like almost 70, I really don't know. But he had the best stories, and we'd just sit and he'd have his morning coffee and I'd listen to him, and he would go on, and he really appreciated it. And so I really like that because you can learn so much from a person by what they've encountered or what they've seen.
Same question for the Gen Xers and baby boomers. What's your favorite thing about Gen Zers?
Loyalty, which is hard to find in this current generation. You know, I think most of our parents stayed in their job for 30 plus years, and they were loyal to the job, and the job was loyal to them. But we live in a different world right now, but I respect that and I admire that.
So you're saying like they'll move if they need to. Is that what you mean?
Well, meaning that I think it was more stable and that they were just very dedicated and loyal to not just the employer, but loyal to family. I just think loyalty is one of the things that's been lost. It's just a different day now. I mean, none of the young people will stay at their first job probably longer than 3 to 5 years. Whereas my dad left A&T and worked at NASA and stayed there until the day he retired 30 years later.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I see a lot of the students or new employees just there for 3, 4, 5 years to move to someplace else. Don't know if it's because they get tired or bored, or it's just that quick gratification. Once that's done, move on to something else.
So Gen Zers, do you all plan to stay in your first job for longer than 3 years?
Longer than 3 years, yes. For 30 years, probably not.
Why?
Because for me personally, I want to be an engineer, but I also want to teach. So I think that I'll be an engineer for a little bit and then try out teaching and see what happens. But that's kind of the long-term plan. But I don't think that I'd be, like my mom worked for the Postal Service and she's been there for 35 years, same with my father. And I think that it's really important to do something you love and that you're passionate in, and sometimes it changes. There's nothing wrong with that. So I want to have a career, not have a job that's paying my bills, and that's the only reason why I'm there.
So you don't need that loyalty then?
I mean, I'll be loyal, but not to a fault.
I like that.
And I should say, even though I respect the older generation and their loyalty, I also admire your generation for being willing to take those risks and make those moves. I think I'm probably lean more towards the older generation. I mean, I've been at the same place for 20 years, And now looking back, I wish I had taken more risks when I was younger and didn't have some of the family commitments that I have now, when I could have been more mobile.
So Justin, have you thought about that at all?
About the jobs?
Yeah, about jobs in the future, yeah.
I have been thinking about jobs in the future. I don't think I would stay loyal to one company or one job. I would like to move around, take a lot of opportunities, and risk as possible. I just don't see myself just sitting for one job for 30 years. Like, that's just weird.
So you're ready to risk it all right
Yeah.
after you graduate?
I mean,
So I've been in one job for 40 years.
that's 10 more years than I
10 more. but I've had a career where I've done a lot of traveling, worked at different companies, even though I've worked for one, but I had the opportunity to go to other places while doing that. So I mean, you can do both. And as far as teaching, you can also work and teach, night classes or things like that. So there's a boundary there. I mean, there's latitude that you can do things.
Yeah. So is it just risk aversion that keeps you all loyal to the company, or is it what else? What keeps you all loyal for that many years, decades?
For me, it's risk
I would
aversion.
say yes, risk aversion, and then, as you mature, you kind of just settle, family. You don't want to, I personally did not want to uproot my entire family to move somewhere, so risk aversion for me.
Yes.
Is that?
It's more the pay,
Oh, okay.
the opportunity for
Versace, man. So if given the opportunity to take a better job that was all around better tomorrow, would you all do that?
If it were in Greensboro, yes. Elsewhere, not for 2 more years until I can get my son out of high school.
It depends. All depends.
I would consider it.
Okay, very interesting stuff. So you brought up an interesting point about your family and your career and how they're interrelated. So I'm curious for you all about maybe how having a STEM or STEM adjacent career has affected the lives of you all's families.
For me, so I consider myself a tech geek. I love gadgets, I love technology. So in my home, it's full of technology everywhere to do everything for us. The new gadget, I have it. And probably too much to an extent that my children are even, Mom, do you really need that? Yes, I do.
What's
but
your favorite gadget right now? Sorry to cut you off.
my favorite gadget at the moment, I don't have anything new. I went to Best Buy on Black Friday. I couldn't find a new gadget. So my latest thing are like my doorbells and cameras. That's about it. I love those. The Roomba, cleans while I'm gone. Set it on a schedule, stuff like that. But yeah, I think so.
I think financially, the opportunity that having a STEM career provides certainly allows you to have a comfortable lifestyle and be able to provide for the family.
It's travel. My wife's also in the STEM field, so we've been able to do a lot more than we would have if one were not in that field. Because one wanted to move, one would then have to find a job in that other field. So it's been an opportunity that we're similar.
And yeah, that brings me to an interesting point that I want to point out for some of our folks in the audience. So STEM careers make on average about $20,000, like individuals that are in STEM careers make on average about $20,000 more than the average family in the United States. So yeah, STEM careers are the highest paying careers on average by far. This is the new MBA, right? If we have an individual that can code using artificial intelligence algorithms, they are being drafted like NFL players. People are paying millions of dollars to get them into these fields. And so especially I know some younger students are in here, you'll have to recognize that you have that value, and companies will pay you for that value, but you need to know what that value is. And that actually brings me to another point. So how do you all, as Black professionals in the STEM fields, how do you all, or how have you all made efforts to stick up for yourself, stand up for yourself when you feel like you're being either undervalued or someone just doesn't recognize, how much you're bringing to the table?
I would say you have to know your worth. So you really have to do your education and understand what you are valued at. And that gives you the information to go into those hard conversations and have those negotiation skills with whomever, whether you're negotiating a raise or what have you, or another opportunity. Knowing your worth is key.
So what makes up, I mean, and I know this is really subjective and arbitrary, but for you, like, what would you include into what makes your worth in terms of your salary?
Everything I bring to the table, my experiences, of course, my education, my creativity. Although being in a STEM field, when I was at my second company, I took the opportunity to do various jobs within the company as opposed to do one particular role and continue that on. And that gave me the ability to work with, the experience to work with customers, to, of course, work with our development team, to work with our quality team, to work with our education team. So all around, I consider myself to be unique because I have a lot of experiences that other people in my organization don't have and don't bring to the table. And I think I'm a pretty collaborative person. So again, typically working in a tech field, people are not super collaborative. They don't bring those skills to the table. And the fact that I have that, I bring all of that into that conversation when I have those negotiation conversations.
I'm ready to hire you right now.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
So I think to add on is you got to have what your network is. If you have a very large network, a resource that people can kind of tap into also makes you more worthy, because you may have the skills, but you also know somebody else that you can add, that you can bring to the table also. So it's always reaching back for others too.
So Justin, as a freshman, you're pursuing internships, and your resume is maybe your high school resume is maybe pretty decorated, but right now your college resume isn't that decorated yet, right? But how do you? I know you're about to start having conversations with folks that want to bring you to internships. How do you articulate your value to those people?
I just tell them straight up, these are my strengths and these are my weaknesses. If you find as though since I don't know how to do this or that, then you're not going to pay me this amount of money, then teach it to me, or I can learn it myself. It's really just knowing what I can and can't do, pushing myself to the limit, telling them that I can bring anything they want to the table, and just showing them what I'm really worth and what I can be worth if they teach me the correct amount of knowledge.
I like it. Anyone else have anything to add to that? Have you all ever had any tough experiences, like negotiating in your STEM? You guys have any stories about any negotiations or any value propositions or pitches or things like that?
No, I don't think so.
So it's been pretty easy for people to just pay you what you're worth.
I negotiated once.
How did it go?
It went in my favor. So for my internship last semester, or over the summer, the pay was great. It wasn't really that. It was the fact that they wanted to put me in Newark, New Jersey area where the cost of living is really high. And they weren't able to negotiate my pay, but what they would do was pay for my housing because there were no other interns there, so I couldn't get a roommate, so it was pretty much all on me. And so basically I just presented the facts, stick with the figures, because I really don't have a whole lot of experience, value added, all that stuff hasn't really been developed a whole lot yet, but they made sense with the numbers, and so they were willing to pay for my housing the entire summer. So it was nice, got to live on their dime for 3 months.
Oh, man, that's living the dream. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, how did you, what was your mental process? Because a lot of people will think, oh, I got an internship and it's paying, which most STEM internships are paying, but you feel like that in and of itself is a privilege, and I don't want to risk messing that up or throwing away my opportunity. What made you actually say, you know what, let me go back and see what they're willing to do?
My mother. Yep. So my mom she was like, no, you need to ask them. There's, even if you say no, it's not like they're going to take away your internship or anything like that. So the worst that can happen is they'll say no and we'll figure it out. But that didn't happen. So closed mouths don't get fed. So.
That's a bar.
Especially when it's a company that has plenty of money. So might as well just ask.
So would you all at this point ever negotiate a salary?
Absolutely.
Yes, definitely.
I would never not negotiate at this point.
So, that's interesting. So if you guys were in college still, did you all have internships when you were in college? All 3 years? Or?
Yes. Wasn't that?
Okay.
I was actually a co-op student while I was here at A&T.
Amazing. Wow.
How lucky.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible. And so, you know, all of you have STEM backgrounds and all of you had internships every single year. I think that that's actually, once again, I'm trying to point out some common themes here. Like that is what happens when you're in STEM, right? Because you're just, as long as you perform well in school and as long as you professionally develop yourself, like there's people that will come after you and be looking for opportunities to engage with you. So, I mean, I'm really curious, you know, if you guys have any other thoughts that you want to make sure that you say for our folks in the audience, or make sure that there's anything that they need to hear about STEM, about the importance of going to a school like A&T and getting a STEM degree. What does that mean? What does that mean for you all?
I consider it to be a golden ticket if you graduate from A&T with a STEM career, because you're leaving this mecca of excellence and you go into the workforce or to graduate school with full confidence, and you've got the academics to back it up coming from this great university. So I really think it's the golden ticket.
I think it also, I mean, it leaves a legacy to those that follow behind you in a sense that now, you know, other places that you've worked at and that they'll come back for students just like you, and so it just continues on. So as long as we continue this great path, it's a good thing.
I'll piggyback off of that even more so on a personal note. I'm now an advocate for attending HBCUs, A&T, and studying engineering all in one, because without A&T and without my engineering degree, it could kind of be a little piece of me missing, because that is just now a part of who I am. And even in a sense where my parents, who didn't know what an HBCU was coming from Chicago when they were in college, and now they take pride in A&T, and my mom's in an alumni chapter. I'm like, you're not an alumni. But nonetheless, so I think that A&T has been a really big part of me, and then it will also be a part of my legacy, which I will have with my children and my friends and my family.
I would just say, you know, for students now, use your resources. Take advantage of all the resources that are afforded to you on campus. I mean, although majoring in a STEM field, you will have, there are several people that are competing, and you're absolutely right. For some companies, they will pay very high signing bonuses to get people to come to their company, but you still have to put in the work. You have to put yourself out there. You have to be the polished professional. You have to have the appropriate resume. There's no short of interns. Take advantage, get them every summer, do co-ops, just take advantage of your resources.
To be honest, STEM is not the easiest thing, but it's not rocket science, really, unless you're doing rocket science. Yeah. But as an HBCU student, you just must do it. Make like Nike and do it. Learn STEM. It's just, you must, it's a must thing. It's the wave of the future. It's the newest trend, and really you just, you need to learn it, and like they were saying before, it's the golden ticket to really success in the world. And I encourage everyone to just take time and try to do a STEM-related field if you ever want to be successful in the future, or if you want economic opportunities to come, if you want a great experience, if you want to get involved with technology and just futuristic events. Take time.
Well, thank you all so much for those gems. And I think, you know, one of the themes that I started off with, because all of you all are accomplished in your own fields, right? All of you all are doing amazing work. Seriously, I'm truly admiring all of the work that you guys have done. But one of the things I said that was really important, and I know some of you all, I saw in your bios that you're working on this, is advocacy, right? Outreach, being not only in the field and excellent, but also outside and telling other people about it. So what do you think STEM advocacy looks like for you, and how are you executing on that today?
So I was living in an area where there's a school, I'll name the school, Global Scholars Academy. It's a K through 8th grade. And they basically 50% are African American and 50% are Hispanic, living in an underprivileged area in Durham. And so we've outreached to them, and so we actually are engaging with them and increasing their STEM, helping them with cybersecurity, helping them with their first science project, science fair. And these kids who have never had the opportunity to reach outside of just their area is something that, to me, is more beneficial to me than to them. They don't realize that. And for them, for their eyes to kind of, be wide open and to understand that is just beneficial. So the outreach with the K through 8th or K through 12 is where we need to focus for our next generation.
One of the things I really push is making sure that students are aware that any STEM field can really serve as a platform even to go into other fields. Just like I went into law, one of my very good friends got a mechanical engineering degree here at A&T. She's an OBGYN physician. And so just making kids understand that even if you come here and you major in engineering or a science, there's still a plethora of opportunities of careers. And that engineering background proves to be very useful no matter what the ultimate career is.
For me, I've been really involved with elementary school age kids, and so since I've been in college, I've been volunteering at a local school in Guilford County, and even in Illinois, I developed a STEM curriculum for one of the summer camps in a local school district. And so for me, it's about exposing them to the careers, but taking it a step further. It's more so about breaking down some of the barriers about myths about STEM that a lot of minorities have, meaning like, okay, math is hard, science is boring. So what I try and do is small things that they'll do or things that they think is interesting, like playing basketball. I'm like, yeah, that's physics. And they're like, what? How is that physics? And so by explaining things that they like, bringing STEM to their level is something that I take passion in, because then you get that big-eyed, like, oh gosh, moment from them, because they don't even realize that STEM is applied or it's applicable in so many different ways beyond just being a scientist or being a mathematician or an engineer. So you can apply it in different ways. It's baking, something as simple as that.
For me, I'm involved various ways through work, doing a lot of advocacy, working in the community, personally also working in the community, trying to just do a very similar thing of just breaking down science and technology to a level that people can relate to it on what they do on a day-to-day basis, and to really just get them interested. One of the things that we think is really important is National Engineers Week. My company participates in that, but what we try to do, they have a limited list of places that they actually go, and for me and a good friend, we like to go to the more rural areas to actually bring technology and science into those classrooms. And we're there the entire day, and we do fun things to make sure that kids have an opportunity to put their hands on things, because people learn in various ways. And giving them an opportunity to see it, touch it, and also hear it, they'll be able to understand, oh, this is what you mean when you say STEM, this is what engineering is, this is what technology is. It helps them to connect the dots and hopefully sparks that interest, just like a teacher did for me when I was younger.
For me, I interact with a lot of elementary school, middle school, high school kids, and the most important thing about me is for them is exposure, hands-on projects, and just really understanding what STEM is, how it relates to their lives, how it can really improve the lives of others and benefit them now and the future. And I also agree, you must break down the myths that are built around many of the STEM fields, and you just must encourage them to learn everything STEM is about.
Awesome. I was born and raised on the south side of Chicago by a single parent, right? And so I was the class clown, I was the bad kid. I used to get C's and D's and maybe one time even an F in high school. I never thought science was for me growing up. I never thought that this was something that was accessible until I went to an HBCU.
Greetings, class of 2016. I'm Justin Shaifer, your freshman class president.
I'm a proud graduate of Hampton University. I got my degree in marine and environmental science. And man, I think that was the time that I realized that it's on me. You know what I mean? Like, really, it's on me. What I recognized was that there are other people from circumstances and situations like mine that made their lives successful because they pointed the finger back on themselves. They said the success was gonna be for them. And they especially did that in STEM. I had the fortune of being fully funded, having a fully funded education from scholarships from NASA, NSF. I worked with a couple tech companies as well. And our panel today can tell a similar story. STEM is the future. There's a lot of money out there. But here's the most important point that I want to make, and this is why I'm glad that we're speaking, that we're being advocates for STEM today, is because what I actually never realized was that I had a STEM role model all along. So right before I went to college, I discovered a patent that my grandfather held. So my grandfather had passed away when I was 12. He was my grandfather on my father's side. Wasn't really that connected with him. I discovered a patent that he had for a circuit in the VCR. And so this changed my whole worldview of STEM, of science careers. I was like, maybe this is something that I should get into. I always had these interests secretly, but one of the things that he never really did was share with me what he actually did before he passed away. Like, I just heard he was an engineer, but I never really put that into context growing up as a kid. He wasn't an advocate, and I'm not blaming him for that. I think that's the culture of STEM itself. We tell people in STEM a lot of times, stay in your lane, stay quiet, and produce results over and over and over again. And we never tell them to go out and speak to the world and tell the world about why what they're doing is important. And because he didn't do that for me, I didn't have a role model. How many of you guys have STEM backgrounds or are in a STEM field today? Pretty much everybody in here. And my charge to you all is to not only go and be excellent as scientists, as engineers, as mathematicians, but to also speak to the young people, speak to kids about the work that you all do, because that is how we will lead to having a next generation of informed and powerful STEM leaders that are Black and brown. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Generation A&T.